Good morning. We are live. This is the deep dive with Keeping Current Matters. It is Monday, September 12th, and my name is Kate Rezabek, and I am so excited to be here with you all today. You know, we start every Monday morning off with the most important topic on the housing market for that week. And it's such a joy to have you all here with us week after week. You know, we're going to be able to share all of the slides that we have for you today. If you're new to KCM, you can go to trykcm.com. And if you are a current member, you can always find the slides in our member area as well. So lots of great stuff happening here today. We're actually going to be talking about inventory today. So big question on everybody's mind, what's happening with inventory? We're seeing inventory continue to rise this year. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with buyer demand and active listings. We're going to break all of this down for you today. And I think you're really going to like what we have to talk about. So really creating more opportunities for buyers in the housing market right now. So we're excited to bring you the latest inventory update. Lots of graphs, lots of charts, lots of visuals to help you be the market expert, to be that trusted advisor in your market, because more than ever, your clients have questions right now. And our research team is vetting through all the data, all the insights, and helping you make sense of what's really happening in this shifting market. So as we bring you these slides today, we certainly want you to download those, share those with your clients, put them out on social. There's so much goodness happening here today. And like I said, we're going to be talking about inventory and how that's creating opportunities for buyers. And I want you to hang on to the finish line, because as we get to the end of the deep dive, I'm going to give you a little insight into what we're going to be talking about next week as well. So we're going to start to weave these together for you and really give you a great opportunity to truly be that market expert. So I'm going to share my screen for you so you can see what we're going to be talking about. As I mentioned, inventory is the topic today. And I want to start with this quote from Michael Lane from Showing Time. It says, "Conditions for buyers are less competitive than they were last year at this time. While a general increase in available inventory in most markets has not only given buyers more options to consider, but more time to consider them." So that's huge. More options, more time. If you have buyers who have potentially been, you know, sitting on the sidelines or stepped out of the process because they couldn't find a home or it was really competitive, you know, now may be a great time to jump back in with more options available, more time to consider them, not feeling so rushed. You know, this is a very different market than what we were talking about even just a few months ago. The frenzy of the pandemic is truly behind us, and finding a home may not be the biggest challenge anymore for buyers who are eager to get into home ownership. So conditions for buyers less competitive. And I want to break that down for you between buyer traffic and today's inventory. So let's go ahead and look at this next graph. Shows that showings are now below last year's level. So this is the Showing Time monthly showing index. And what this is a measure of how many people are going out and looking at homes right now. So Showing Time puts together a monthly index. And what we're showing you here in this index is that the orange bars over the past few months, April, May, June, July, we're seeing that buyer demand start to soften, start to cool a little bit. So below where we were from last year's levels. Now, why is that? We've talked a lot about rising mortgage rates have really softened what's happening with buyer demand, a little bit of a cooling on buyer demand. And so we're seeing fewer buyers in the market right now. Now, we know that context is important, right? So not as many buyers as the past year, but let's talk about what happened compared to pre-pandemic numbers. So same Showing Time index, if we look at July over the last 6 years, and July is the latest data we have here, if you look at the Showing Time index for July of 2022, that's the green bar, certainly a drop off from 2020 and 2021 compared to how many buyers were actively in the market, but we're still ahead of those pre-pandemic years. And remember, those were great years in real estate. So showings above pre-pandemic numbers. So has buyer demand softened a bit? Yes. Is the frenzy behind us? Most likely. But buyers haven't completely disappeared. They're still eager to find a home. And while we're continuing to watch this going forward, we are seeing a slight softening in buyer activity. So this showing time quote helps to describe this. It says the year-over-year dip in buyer activity follows a general market rebalancing that's taking place across the country as available inventory increases while fewer buyers actively shop for homes. So what does that mean? Well, if there are fewer buyers in the market, that's softening buyer demand, that's softening home sales, and that creates more inventory. So not as many buyers means inventory is actually growing. So more options for the buyers who are staying in the market. And what I want to show you next is data from realtor.com. This is the latest active inventory, and it shows that it's increasing dramatically since the beginning of this year. So active monthly listings in thousands, you can see how it's really ticked up May, June, July, August, at the same time that buyer demand was softening. So fewer buyers, more inventory. This is creating a very different dynamic in our housing market. And, we can see how this active inventory is rising. And the interesting thing is that inventory overall is not just coming from new listings. You may think, more inventory means more people are listing their homes. Well, let's break down active versus new listings for a moment. So we actually have more active listings than new listings. That's the trend in the market right now. So the green bars are new listings coming to the market. And you can see June, July, August, that number has kind of tailed off a little bit. So not as many new listings coming to the market, but active listings, the blue bar, is increasing. What this means is that homes are staying on the market a little bit longer. Buyers have more time. They have more options, just like we saw in that quote in the beginning. Active listings are growing, creating more options for buyers. Now, let's take a look at this from a map view, because I think this is always a great visual to be able to see. This is year-over-year change in inventory. And what this shows here is that the darker the states get, the more inventory is available. Well, what's happened year over year, May, June, July, and now you're looking at August in that bottom right-hand corner. August shows that we have 26.6% more inventory this August than we did last August. So this is the latest update we have, and compared to year over year, 26.6% more inventory. So that is a big change. If you think back to last year where, buyers were still clamoring for endless bidding wars, extremely competitive, buyers have more options right now because overall buyer demand is softening, sales are softening, and we're seeing that create more active listings on the market. So what does this mean? This is something that is creating opportunities for buyers. And I want to show you what some of the latest survey data from realtor.com says. Does buyers have more room for negotiation? 41% of sellers accepted some sort of contingencies in their contracts. This survey was done recently over buyers or sellers who sold over the past year. It also says that 32% of sellers dropped the price because it didn't meet the appraisal. So more contingencies coming back, sellers negotiating a little bit more with the appraisal price when that comes in. 29% of sellers paid for repairs to the home after the appraisal. That's an increase that we're seeing as well. And 32% of sellers paid for some or all of the buyer's closing costs. So things that we weren't seeing in the market a year ago are starting to evolve in the buyer's favor. Now, that does not mean that we are in a buyer's market. We are still squarely in a seller's market, but buyers have a little bit more breathing room. So what does this look like? Well, from a seller's perspective, inventory is still historically low. I mentioned a moment ago, we're still in the seller's market. This clearly shows that. And what you can see from this data from calculated risk is that the latest data that we have ending the week of September 2nd, so that last week in August into the first couple days of September, we had 26.3% more inventory than that same week in 2021. Now, if you compare that to 2020, inventory is still lower than that, 5.4%. And if you compare that to the same week in 2019, inventory is definitely still historically low, down 42.2%. So we're still in a seller's market, but we're seeing more inventory come to a market creating more opportunities, more room for negotiation for buyers. We're certainly not out of the woods yet. Inventory is still a challenge. We have about half the inventory we need to be even in a neutral market. It's something that we're continuing to watch and we're continuing to bring to you. But right now, inventory is still historically low, even though there's a window for buyers right now. So let's take a look at this quote because I think this really will help frame this up. This is from realtor.com and it says, while fewer new listings are entering the market, overall inventory continues to grow, providing more choices to buyers who are still shopping for a home. So this is huge, more choices for buyers. This fall, a more moderate pace of home selling, more listings to choose from, and softening price growth will provide some breathing room for buyers searching for a home during what is typically the best time to buy a home. So if you have clients who have been waiting to buy a home, who have been looking, searching, outbid, unable to find what they're looking for, with more options coming to the market, this may ease some of that pain that they've been feeling over the past couple of years. But here's the big question, and I know this must be on your mind because we've surveyed a lot of agents right now, and the biggest question that we're hearing is, but what's going to happen with prices? We know that prices are defined by that tug between supply and demand. And anytime there are more buyers on the market than sellers available for that item, prices rise. But if you look at this quote, it says softening price growth. So what does this mean? Well, let me show you that the market is truly at an inflection point. Our supply and demand ratio is changing quickly. This is something that we are continuing to watch. So buyer demand is down. That's what you can see in the red bar. And inventory is up. Active listings are increasing. We said 26.6% compared to last year. This is a change. This is a shift in our market. This is an inflection point. And, this is going to have an impact on home prices. We are continuing to watch this. Our research team right now is digging into all the data to bring you exactly what you need to go ahead and explain home prices at this moment in time to your clients. It's the biggest question they're asking. We know it's on your mind. So what we're going to do next week on the deep dive is we are going to bring you updated slides, visuals, graphs, quotes, everything that you need to be able to explain what's happening with prices for your clients, because this is a different point. This is what we're calling an inflection point in the market with buyer demand down and inventory rising. And we want to make sure that you are the trusted expert, the person who can actively explain this to your clients, make sure they understand it. We want to give you everything you need to be the trusted advisor in that conversation, to be the expert in your market. So you don't want to miss that one. That's 11 a.m. Eastern next week, Monday, September 19th. I want to see you here. Tag all your friends, join them, have them join you for the deep dive. We're going to walk all through this because it's going to be one of the most important conversations that you have going into the fall, going into the end of the year, getting ready for 2023. So before I open it up to questions, I want to remind you that we have a great webinar opportunity coming up this week. It's with David Childers. It's a live webinar this Wednesday, September 14th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. This is about, is this a slowdown or a housing bubble? So we want to make sure that you get everything you need out of that conversation as well. Another big question about a bubble on everyone's mind. David's going to answer all those questions for you. So you have everything you need to guide your clients today. So I'm going to pause right here, see if we have any questions. Jessica?
Hi, Kate. I actually haven't seen any live questions come through.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you back here next Monday as we go through that inflection point in the market, talking about supply and demand and how that's going to impact prices. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.